So very warm welcome to all of you. I think it is 7:05. We will get started with this today's webinar. As you all know, we host Masterclass webinar series on a monthly basis. Typically, we do it on the first Saturday of every month. That way, if you see in June, it is supposed to be done on last Saturday. But unfortunately, I was traveling. I don't want to take a risk. I did take some risk with respect to some other meeting, but my travel got delayed and then I couldn't host that meeting. So I don't want to take a risk with respect to Masterclass webinar. So I told our team to move it by a week so that we can do it on today, that is 11th of June. So what we typically do as a part of the Masterclass webinar, at a high level, we do two type of webinars. Right, in the beginning of the month, we do this Masterclass webinar where we invite people who are working in a company, working in an industry, having a tech expertise in a particular area. So they primarily come and share their knowledge and experience in form of a webinar. That's what we are going to do today, right? So there is one more form of webinar which we host, me and Mubin host, my colleague Mubin host, and towards the end of the month, which is more of a course demo, right? Students who want to know more about our course, that's what we do towards the end of the month, right? So that way, you can see that typically we do about 2 webinars per month, right? That's what we've been doing, right? So let us get started with today's webinar. I have few slides to share and introduce our speaker, then I will get off the video. So today's webinar is a 5th edition. We have done already 4 masterclass webinar. If you remember, folks who've been attending from the beginning. We got started off with a webinar about electric vehicles. Then subsequently we had one about machine learning and artificial intelligence, primarily in the context of edge computing. Then we had one about Linux, and then the last one was about using drones in the solar energy management panel, right? How it can be used and things like that. So every talk, if you remember, you've been attending in the past, is delivered by folks who are really working in that area, who have deep expertise in that area. They build solution, they build the real-time products, and they have working experience, and of course they're really passionate about knowledge sharing with others, right? That way we've done the 4 webinars. So today we have the 5th one in that particular series. So we are calling this as an emerging technology series, where the focus is going to remain on technology side of it. Okay, that's a focus, and going forward you can also look forward to introduce other topics like, say for example, soft skills, or your some kind of a hands-on workshop. So we are planning those things also. So pretty much as of now, we are planning an emerging technology series only, right? So people who are new to Emertxe, just briefly, couple of slides I'll talk about. So we are an edtech company, primarily focusing on making engineers employable by offering long-term immersive courses in embedded systems, IoT, and full stack development. Those are 3 different areas. In each of these areas, we offer about 6 months training program, both in the online and offline mode. And full stack web development, we kind of paused it. We paused it at the time of pandemic. So very soon that also will be launching. Okay. So as an organization, we focus to solve 2 problems. One problem is to make the entry-level engineers employable. As you know, in India, a lot of engineers graduate, but very few of them have the employable skills. So our programs primarily make things hands-on, because good number of our students are here. Some of them have done the internship also. All of you will be able to relate with what I'm saying. Our education programs are pretty much hands-on, where you really build things by learning by doing approach. And once you build a skill, of course there are opportunities are endless, right? So that's what we do in the entry-level segment. And we also work with working professionals who want to come into this core industry, right? People might have got a job in the services segment, IT segment, or got into some business type of roles due to their campus interview, or that's what they got as a first job, right? But they wanted to upskill their profile, or modify their profile, and then they get into the core area, right? So that's also type of people whom we get, so whom we upskill and help them to get into jobs, right? So that's about a brief about our organization. So coming to our leadership team, 3 of us are part of our Emertxe leadership team. Mr. Maz is the founder and managing director of the organization. He is the one who started Emertxe, and myself, I'm one of the core leadership team members. So primarily I look into the placement responsibilities, and apart from that, I run all these webinars and all the outreach programs by collaborating with external partners, and I also handle some business related responsibilities, right? And then I have my colleague, another third colleague, Mr. Mubin, who primarily part of the technical team, who heads the team of trainers or mentors who eventually deliver these training programs which I talked about, right? So that's about our leadership team. As a team, Emertxe, people who are familiar will know we are about a 75 people company, largely consists of mentors, about 40 of them, delivering these training programs, and rest of us are more of placement, business team, support, operations, etc. Okay, that's what we are. And people know, right, pretty much almost all the companies who are working in this core segment, be it telecom, networking, storage, robotics, IoT, and then Internet of Things, electric vehicle in the recent past. These are all the core organizations who hire our trained graduates. Pretty much we work with about 1,200 plus companies who have been hiring our students, and people who are already part of our group, in either you are part of an intern group and or the regular course group, you all know that in the last 5 months it's been really good. We have about 100 plus companies hiring our trained engineers, right? So again, these slides may be very familiar for people who are already doing our full-time courses, but since we have good number of newbies come, right, they shouldn't feel uncomfortable, right? They were, what is this company and what is this whole initiative is all about, right? That's a brief about our organization, right? And coming to our webinar series, right? Your question is like, why these webinars, right? Okay, why? What is the motivation for us in Emertxe to do these webinars? And these webinars, as you all know, it is open for everyone. It's not only open for our students; it is very much open for anyone who are interested to grow in the technology career path, right? And what is our motivation as an Emertxe, right? We put a lot of effort in inviting the speakers, and then do a lot of reach out to the students via email and social media, and then and we also basically deliver these webinars for free, and then there are some goodies and certificates, right? What is our motivation, right? So we strongly believe, being in the skilling ecosystem, right, there are two M's which are important. You can see that very simple way to understand. One M that is important is about mentoring, right? When we bring in people who are having the real experience, right, and then they share how they build about real-time solutions, how the real use cases of the technology and things like that. Basically, you get a real sharing from people, right? They're not this. For example, today, if we talk about Parameshwar Prasad, we call him Param, right? So he did work on this segment, over 10 years. So these are the people who have expertise in that area. So when they come and share this experience with you guys, it is more of a mentoring that is happening, right? So what is the consequence of the mentoring? The consequence of the mentoring is you guys get motivated, right? Motivated to take some action. That action could be, doing some project of your area of interest, or signing up for some course, or basically you get some kind of a internship in that area, or whatever it could be, right? You get motivated and take some action, right? For our students who are doing our course, this is a kind of a refresher every month. We get the external speaker to come and speak. That kind of gives them a additional reinforcement or additional confidence that they're on the right path, right? So that's two M's that we talk about, the reason why we are doing this webinars, right? So with that particular note, let me talk about today's webinar. As you can see, the topic of today's webinar is quite exciting topic, because we've been giving all the recent trending topic. I would say one of the recent trending topic, if you talk about, right, is about blockchain, right? So blockchain, if you ask me honestly, I don't have much idea, even though I did have some discussion with Param about that, but it is around us, right? Blockchain, in fact, I don't know how many of you watched the recent IPL ad, right? There was one particular ad which Hardik Pandya and Rohit Sharma comes, right? There is a ad, and then he captures moments, right? He says, can you capture it? Can you own that moment, right? Say, for example, MS Dhoni hit a six in the end of 2011 World Cup, right? Or let us say somebody took a spectacular catch in a particular match, right? So Hardik Pandya asked Rohit Sharma, can you own it, right? Did anybody watch that ad? Can I get some quick response? If you remember, right? Anyways, IPL got over. Did you guys? I don't remember the app name. Did you guys watch that ad by any chance? Yes, no? And then Rohit Sharma asked, "What do you mean by owning that moment?" Right? Then Pandya said, then he explains few things. Then finally Rohit Sharma says, "Oh, I'll own all the moments of Mahendra Singh Dhoni sixers." Right? So if you look at that ad, Raghunath is telling no, so yeah, Suraj is telling Yasin, right? If you see that, if you end of that particular ad, it talks about something called NFT. Have you heard about NFT? Anyone? Anyone heard about the NFT? So we heard about NFC, right? No near field communication, right? So there are things like NFT, right? Basically the tokens which you talk about, using which you can own the digital asset, right? So right from that, okay, as much as owning a particular moment in a cricketing, catch or a thing, right? And of course, the most popular application that you can think about is about, the entire cryptocurrency, right? Which is having its own uh, pluses and minuses. There are a lot of controversies around that. Somebody say, no, I made a lot of money. Somebody says it ripped me off, right? There are a lot of things that is happening, right? So believe it or not, blockchain is slowly and steadily, growing around us. So it's very important for us to understand this particular technology, how it works, basically. And if you can see this particular, topic, it says a beginner's webinar to get started with blockchain, and he's going to talk about, how to evaluate and how to make sure that those blockchain, right, the network works interoperable with other things. Right? That's going to be today's focus, right? For that, we have speaker, Mr. Parameshwar Prasad. Okay, I call him Param. So Param and me go long back. So Param, some of you don't know, I used to work in Huawei before I came to Emertxe. So Param was part of my team. I used to be part of an embedded Linux team, which used to customize Linux for various Huawei products. So Param was, I would say that time about 10 years back, he was relatively a junior engineer. Then Param went on to Dell, and he had a tremendous career growth over there, and currently is a principal engineer in Dell. Built a lot of solutions in the storage and blockchain and quite a lot of technologies. It will be too long if I talk about that. And apart from that, Param owns about 40 plus patents, right? It's really amazing to see at this experience somebody has filed so many patents, right? And more than that, I always seen right from the time my interaction with Param, right, that he's very curious, and he always energetic to share things with others. In fact, last webinar, if you remember, the speaker Kaustubh Karnataki was also one of the trainers. After I came to Emertxe, we trained him in Bosch. So that way, it's very glad that some of them whom I've seen in front of my eyes growing, good in terms of career, bringing back to this webinar, right? For me, it's like homecoming, right? Bringing them back in a different avatar and introducing to you guys, right? So with that, it's really my pleasure to have Param as a part of today's webinar, right? Param will be, in a minute or two, I'll be sharing the desktop with him, and then he will run through the sessions, right? So now there are some protocols which I wanted to share how we are going to run this webinar. I'm sure as Param runs through the slides, some of you will have some questions. I'll also pause by. I'll be there in the little on the back seat, right? But I'll be listening. I'll go off the video in after a few minutes. But anybody has got any questions, please type it in the chat window. What I'll do is, once like a set of group of questions come up, I'll pause Param, take up. I'll read your questions on behalf of you, and then Param will answer. Then we'll move on, right? Like that, we'll take some logical breaks in between, and then we'll move on, right? That's about protocol one. Then there are two things you can see in the screen. One is a participant certificate and the quiz and goodies, right? Okay. So people who are attending this particular webinar, irrespective whether a student or intern or a newbie, okay, our team will take a record of this early next week. And then all of you will get a participant certificate. It will be a soft copy. It will be mailed to you with our, participation information signed by us, right? Just to acknowledge you and motivate you to attend more such sessions as we move forward. So that's point number one, right? So point number two is about goodies. Already there was a question from Shaloni. She's asking, what are the goodies like, on what basis we are going to get them, right? So let me talk about goodies, right? Once we get, by the end of the webinar, once Param completes its talk, we'll be hosting a quiz in our Instagram page. Now I'll run through that Instagram page, no worries, right? I'll open up and show around, towards the close of it. My team is already having the quiz ready. In fact, the quiz questions are set by our speaker today, Param, right? So it will be a objective type where you can go and take a question in Instagram itself. The requirement that you need to have is to have Instagram account. That's all, right? You can just go ahead and take the question in the Instagram itself. And in order to take that particular Instagram quiz, since we have few thousands of followers who are not attending the webinar, we don't want them to get that benefit, right? It has to be, goodie should be given and for people who are attending the webinar today, not somebody does a inky pinky ponky and then they get the goodies, right? No. So I'll be giving you a coupon code by the end of this particular webinar once Param completes his session, right? And after that, you need to put that coupon code, and then subsequently you can take the question, right? only you guys will get to know, right? Coupon code only I'm going to announce end of the session. So if you put a coupon code, that will be a first question. You need to put a coupon code. Then there will be objective type question, right? You need to select one of them and then you submit it, right? So early next week, whomever answers the maximum number of questions, I know many of them will answer. So our team will try to give as many goodies. Again, our team will reach out to you. They will, we give some goodies in form of some t-shirts and mugs and with Emertxe merchandise, so that you also feel motivated, right? Otherwise, we all need some kind of a motivation to attend a webinar on a Saturday evening 7 p.m., right? That's about goodies and certificates, right? Again, there's no restriction. Whomever answers right, we'll give you. It's not that only for Emertxe student we'll give you, outsiders we don't give you, nothing like that. Whoever answers, we'll give you. This is just to get us motivated, right? Okay, so that's a brief note, guys. Can you get one quick go ahead from all of you? Shall we go ahead and hand over the desk to Parameshwar so that he can start the webinar? Can I get some yeses? Okay. Suraj is telling yes. Prabhakaran saying yes. Deepika. Okay. Dhruvil. Okay. Devananda. Rajeshwari. Sai. Kishore. Sai. Sunil. Awesome, guys. Raghavi. Dharanidharan. Okay. Great. Okay. So thank you very much. I know for some of our students, this may be repetitive, this session, because they know about Emertxe. But as I said, always, it's good to bring all of us into the context, and then, we'll start out, right? So with that note, let me, Param, I'll make you as a presenter.
Sure.
Give me a minute. Param, are you okay? All right. I think you are taken the desktop. Okay. Okay. All right, Param, over to you. I will be in mute mode, and then I'll, as and when questions come up, I'll pause by and take. Okay. Thank you. Go ahead, Param. It's up to you. It's all up to you now. Stage is yours.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you introducing me. So I am Parameshwar Prasad. I work for Dell, and almost 13 years of the IT experience I have. And
Param, still voice is not that high, Param. Can you just check?
so is it better now?
Better, but I think still, can be far better. Maybe some settings, I don't know. Use the same laptop or
So yeah, it's same laptop only. So basically, I was sitting at different place. Now I changed the place. I came to my room now. Is it better, or do I need to change something?
yeah, it is better, say Sai Konda. Proceed. We'll see. Okay. Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Jay. So I have around 13 years of experience in the IT industry, and quite good number of the patents. I have somewhere near to 52 patents, and I have a good experience of speaking to international conferences. So I have spoken to Singapore, Israel, US in these conferences. And if you ask me my strengths, so I know the cloud, I know the blockchain, embedded system, Linux. These are some of my interest area where I work. And I'm associated with the SNEA. So that's a SNEA is an organization which is creating the spec, basically the spec for the standards. So I'm co-chair there for the blockchain. And basically we are writing the spec where we can create a framework where the multiple blockchains can talk to each other. So in this talk, what we will be doing, so we will talk from the basic to the interoperability. So basically how we can make the blockchain to talk each other. So I will be explaining, but this particular session is not sufficient to tell everything, but you can write me the mail also if you have the question, or you just type in the chat. So I'll try to answer everything. Okay, so let's understand first what is the blockchain and how it is started. So I think most of you are from the computer science background, so you must be knowing the block of the data. So a block of the data is say like a few words or a page of the data or maybe few MB of the data. So that we can consider as a block. And when we have the data, probably you just calculate the hash of that. So hash gives you the integrity. So you combine the previous block hash to the current block of the data and you pack it. Now what happened, if you know the concept of the linked list, so basically the previous pointer we put with the new current data, and that's how we create the association. Same way the hash of the previous block will put with the data, and that's how we know that okay, this is part of the chain and we cannot break it, because if you alter the data, so you're going to change the hash. So at that moment it's very difficult to break the chain. So basically hash is there, so you can just calculate the hash and you can validate. That's how the block and the blockchain is associated. So you have the block of data, you have the hash of that, and subsequently you keep growing the data. So and you create the blockchain. So I was just explaining, so we have the data and the reference of previous, and that's how we are keep doing. But in the practical, this is not implemented in this way. So basically we have the multiple nodes. Nodes, we call that the computer or any entity which is validating the blockchain operations. That's a node. And that's the blockchain data is spread across the network. So basically, if you say that I have a blockchain and probably one node is in India, second node is in the US, and third somewhere in the Australia and somewhere else. So basically all of the data will be staying to each node. So one will be in the US, in India and Australia, and all will be sync. So you cannot say that, okay, this data is different, which is in the India, and the data in the US, that's different. So all the data will be the same, and each will contain the same data. And apart from the hash and all, so this is one thing what makes the blockchain. And when we have the spread data across the geography, you need the way to talk to each other. So basically we need to have the RPC so that we can talk to each of the blockchain and the node. And when we have that, so probably then we need the validation. So if we are writing any data into that blockchain, how to make sure that okay, we have written the good one and the operation is valid. So we need the validation. So probably all these things we will come more into detail in the further slides, but as of now, just understand the blockchain. We have data, then we have the hash, and we are packing both together. And that's how we are creating the association. And most of the time, they use the SHA 256, and the background is the miracle tree. So keep adding the data, keep calculating the hash, and have the relationship of that. So most of you will be knowing the miracle tree. So that's very simple concept, and it has been used multiple places in the computer industry. So blockchain is one of the use case. And whenever you talk about the data, so whether the data is in the cloud or anywhere or storage, the miracle tree is very important thing. So I was also talking about that. Okay, we have one node in India, second in the US, third in Australia, somewhere else. So how do you say that okay, the right of the data is correct, or how all of these nodes will talk to each other and say that okay, this is the data what you should be writing. So that's basically the consensus can be in multiple ways. So sometimes it is like the proof of work, sometimes it is proof of space, and there are n number of the consensus. You just believe me, there are n number of the consensus. But if you just take the examples like Bitcoin. So Bitcoin is using the proof of work. So basically you do the work. So the work is kind of say like I have a mathematical problem. In that mathematical problem, I need to find out some solution, and maybe like some hash I need to find it. So for that, what I do, I spend the computing power and I solve that problem. I solve that mathematical problem, and at the end, I'll come with the some solution. But this proof of this work is being done by the multiple entities. Now, whether the work is correct or not correct, the output is correct or not. So that is being validated by the all of the nodes is spread across the world. That's the consensus. So the very first the consensus mechanism was the proof of work, which was being used in the sorry, in the Bitcoin. But that is not sufficient, because so we cannot have a system where we are spending the electricity worth of, say, the New Zealand country, or the worth of the Pakistan country, or maybe the worth of the Thailand country. So we cannot have that much electricity consumed only to validate. So we were looking for something very good solution. So the solution was like a proof of stake. So that is the one of the very good consensus mechanism being used currently in the blockchain industry. So what it means? It means basically if we have this tag, means how much the capacity I have, or how much ownership I have. So basically it can be in terms of the tokens, it can be in terms of the data, or it can be any other parameter, but basically it's a stack. And the person or the node who is having that much stack, uh, the voting power will be more for that person. So proof of stake works in that way, like, okay, maximum majority of the people who is having the stack, what they say. And if they say that something, so basically that's the true. And based on that, let's go and add the block in the blockchain. That's the proof of stake. And the concept of the proof of space, it's very important in the computer industry. Sorry, because we have the data. So data is moving. Now, say like someone is saying that, okay, I have the valid data, or maybe I have the capacity to hold the data. I have some NVMe. How do we say that, okay, this data is valid, or probably I have the capacity to hold the data. So if some proof of consensus can be done through these spaces, so that's the proof of a space. It's not only this, we have the multiple proof of, someone can say that, okay, proof of availability. So if someone is available, so based on that, we'll have the consensus. So it all depends on what all kind of the requirement we have. So you can also come and say that, okay, proof of memory. So the person who is having the memory, say like in the computer memory, the much RAM I have, and based on the size of the RAM, or maybe like the working of the RAM, or whatsoever characteristic you want to say, and if there are n number of the nodes participating in that, I can just have the consensus among them. So this is one of the very good areas. So probably right now you are learning. So find out the consensus mechanism and propose from your side, okay, this can be a newer consensus mechanism, and probably this is going to solve the industry problem in this way. So that is one of the very good area where you can go and explore the things. So I started my talk with the Bitcoin. So somewhere near to 2008, that's where the Bitcoin paper was published, and so it was told by some Miss pseudo person. So that no one knows that who is Satoshi Nakamoto, and the person has published a paper. So the paper is in the form that, okay, this is the mechanism of doing this, and this is what it is going to produce, and this is how it is going to distribute the awards. So that's what the paper. And based on the paper, so worldwide community, they came and they implemented the solution, and the solution becomes the Bitcoin network. And now from then, Bitcoin is one of the most precious cryptocurrency. So being is one of the first one, so it's also important. And as Bitcoin is proof of work based, so a lot of government is behind them, that, okay, we don't want the people to mine it, because when you're mining it, you're spending a lot of energy, and that's good for nothing. Because spending so much electricity, if we are just producing one coin, and probably the coin is also not being approved by the government, so it's waste. So a lot of countries, they are behind banning the Bitcoins. So China is one of the examples. So currently they banned all of the mining companies, and probably, yeah, this is keep moving to across the world, but that's the situation as of now. So proof of work, no one want to do. And there are a few more like the Ethereum blockchain, that's also the proof of work based. So once we have the proof of work, right, so doing the operation, and maybe like the cost of any operation is very costly. So like if you want to transfer one Bitcoin to some other person, that is going to take the network charges. The network charges is most of the time called as the gas fee. So you go to any of the blockchain, say like Ethereum or Bitcoin or Tejas or maybe Solana or whatsoever blockchain you go, if you do any kind of transaction, there is gas fee, and the gas fee in the network of the blockchain, which is based on the proof of work, is very high. So we cannot afford. Sometimes it can be like the $1,000. Say like I need to send $1 from person one to person two. To sending the $1 only, I am going to spend some $1,000. So that's not a good solution. So at the time of 2011, so Bitcoin price was somewhere near to $1, and that is how it has grown. So some of the corporate also started accepting the Bitcoins, and if you read the news, it's like some of the big people, they are holding the Bitcoins. They are holding because they believe that this is something good to hold, and that has some value. Probably it's kind of the another asset what people are holding. So okay, so I talked about lot Bitcoin and the proof of work, but the blockchain is not only limited to the Bitcoins. It's not only the cryptocurrency. It's beyond that. So there are a lot of use cases of the blockchain. So to conceptualize, you understand in this way. I have I have one database, second database, third, four, five, six. There are n number of the database, but those are limited. Say like maybe take 100 databases or 200 databases. And in these databases, what I have to do, I need to write a data. And when I have to write a data, probably someone will say that uh, this data you should write, and this data cannot go. Those are the validator. Basically, they validate and say that okay, this is the right data what should go in the network, and this is not the right data. And so when we have the multiple such databases across the network, we have some logic. So logic is called smart contract. So like it's like a education system. Say like one of the example, and you go to any college, and you have certain rules for the admission. So like if you want to take the admission in 10th class, probably the person has to finish his study in the 9th class. That's one. And if you are getting admission, probably you need to have the money also. So that's based on the college or school. So what is your financial situation? So that's another criteria, and the age of the student. So these are some of the logic or conditions what you need to have. Now we can create a blockchain or the smart contract transactions around it. So we can write the smart contract, and we can say that okay, I'm giving this a student, and this all the other information through the smart contract. If it is valid, you write the data in the blockchain. That's one use case of the blockchain. So to basic understanding till now, what I wanted you to carry, that multiple databases, one logic which says that which data to write, and some business logic. That's the three things you understand as of now. And so I was keep talking like okay, Bitcoin. So here the list of the other blockchains. For Ethereum, that's another proof of work based the blockchain. Then we have the Polkadot. Then we have the Binance BSC smart chain, Solana, Tezos, Ripple, and believe me, there are 1,000 plus more blockchains. It's not only these the numbers what these names what I'm saying, but there are 1,000 plus. Even you can write your own blockchain. So you can code it, and probably you can just say that okay, this is my blockchain, and you can propose the purpose of the blockchain. That's what also you can tell. So currently we have some of the blockchains which only deal with the databases or the cloud data. So how do you store that, identify of the data, transfer of the data, integrity of the data, everything you are doing through only that particular type of the blockchain. Each blockchain, they have their own characteristic, their purpose, like why it is made. So like if you say Ripple is very famous for the cross-border payments, and that is very efficient also. And Polkadots, they are telling that they're very good in the interoperability. So you have the network of the network, so Polkadot comes in the center. So that can support multiple blockchain at the moment. And yeah, so let's talk about this. So let me just remove this one. Okay, so some of the disadvantages of the blockchain. Say like you have some 20 GB of the database, and maybe like it's keep growing, always keep growing. And say like you want to bring the blockchain in the banking system. In the banking system, every second we have the thousands of transactions happening. Someone is sending money from here to there, and someone is withdrawing money. Someone is doing opening the bank account and all. So many things person is doing, and you wanted to track everything through the blockchain. That's not possible because each moment once you are writing, it's costly operation. It's like writing the data and consensus among the blockchain and business logic itself. And finally, each of the transactions needs some gas fee. So that's why it is slower also because that you have the RPC mechanism to sync all of the data across the blockchain. So that's why it is slower. High energy consumption. So I think few we can just say that okay, only few are having the high energy consumption, not all. So if you compare that proof of stake and proof of work, so proof of stake is far better, but they're also very slow. So how the block is added is basically there is time duration. So like in 30 seconds only you can add a block. So you accumulate all the data by then in the 30 second, and at the end of the 30 second you go and add that block in the blockchain. So there is a every cycle has a time period. So that's not efficient. So basically it's like bank transaction you're doing, and probably 1,000 transactions you want to be done in the 1 second. So but you need to wait for 30 seconds to write it to blockchain. So that's why it is inefficient. So we cannot use that. High cost. So I told the previous example that if I have to send $1 from person A to person B, and that is costing me the $1,000, so that's a good for nothing. So minimum I should be sending somewhere near $2,000+ so to compensate the cost. So that's why it is not so valuable. Interoperability, this is one of the problem where I am working on now. So like I listed some 4 5 blockchains, and all of them has to talk because there is no way that you can create the blockchain in the silos, because you are creating a network to remove the silos, but at the end that network itself is the silo because that network cannot talk to another network. So that's where the problem is, like it cannot talk. So that's where we are working and we are writing this spec. So I think in a year two the spec will be ready. So by then I think we'll have the good implementation where one blockchain can talk to another blockchain. Harder to scale. So you understand in this way, like okay, I have a set of data, then I'm again writing data, then again it is growing, keep growing, and it becomes sometimes 1,000 GB and maybe more than that. If it becomes more than 1,000 GB, so obviously blockchain is going to be the slower, the performance will be impacted. It's a very hard to scale. So that's one problem. Data is immutable, so it's a basically two side of the things. You can say that okay, immutable because that's the property of the blockchain, but sometimes what happens, you make a mistake, you committed the transaction which is wrong or the bad or what you don't want. So there is no way that you can go and change that. So basically like once you committed something, that's done. You don't have any way to go back and change the things. Self-maintenance, so probably this is some of the feature like what people are looking for, like keep adding the values there, but it's still in the some stage. I can say that okay, some is implemented, some is not implemented, but in my view it should be uh, more maintainable in the state. So automatically we should be able to maintain a lot of things, whether it's wallet or state or whatsoever. Still not mature. So yeah, we are keep evolving. So and every day there is new blockchain. So I think if you heard, the Facebook also has a blockchain. So they come up with some blockchain concept, and most of the things they wanted to achieve the payment related stuff. So every day new blockchain is coming, and they have the new target, new use cases. Integration is the problem. So we don't have the much tools. So, and if you ask me that do they have the open source software much, so basically they create for the purpose, but sometimes it is very hard. So they write a paper and say that, okay, you go and understand everything and come back and say that, okay, you understood and this is the way you should be implementing. So that's how it is not happening. So lot of the blockchain, they are not writing a code, probably they're not creating educational videos or papers so efficiently so that people can come and use that particular blockchain. So that's where the problem. So these are some of the problems of the blockchain. That's why people are not using, or maybe like some of the use cases are not there. Sorry. Okay, let's talk about something use cases where you want to use the blockchain. So the concept what I explained, like multiple databases is spread across the world, and there is consensus mechanism, and there is a business logic. Only three concepts you need to understand the use case of the blockchain. So international payment. So like I'm sending money from India to US. I can have a logic, and that logic is a smart contract, and I send some token through the network, and one token is equivalent to some dollar value. And I say that, okay, I'm sending you 5,000 USD, and I sent some 500 5,000, say like one-to-one mapping, 5,000 tokens I sent, and the person received at the other end in their wallet, and they can give that dollar amount, equivalent dollar amount to the party where it's supposed to go. So that's how we can deal the payment through the blockchain. Now, sorry. So now it has written in the blockchain, so no one can deny. So now no one can deny that the operation did not happen. So like once in the traditional system, and you have the central database, still you have the authority to go and change the data. In the database, you can just insert something and alter something, and the record is changed. But here, the mechanism of writing the data is different. The second thing that you cannot change the data, so you cannot lie that, okay, this payment did not happen. So that's how it is important to understand the use case different when we are using the single database or the multiple database. So that's all. Capital market, trade finance, and money laundering protection, insurance, peer-to-peer transactions. So all of the use cases, so all are depending on the same fundamental that I can write a data to a database where no one can go and change. Second thing, I have the logic, and there is a different mechanism to write the data in the database. So when there is a different mechanism to write the database, so single person cannot go and change anything. It's like the consensus, what the maximum people says, or maybe like whatever kind of the consensus mechanism we have. So based on that, we are going to write the data. So that's how the use case is. And some of the other use cases are here, like the supply chain, healthcare, and basically anywhere record kind of the things you can use it. Identity, because it's a once things has been written somewhere, you cannot change it, so you can use that in the identity. And taxes and all for the record keeping things. And yeah, I just want to talk this one because this is important when we are using in the technology. So IPFS is one of the thing, and completely IPFS. So IPFS is interplanetary planetary file system. So you must be knowing some of the file system like the ext2, ext4, xfs, and so this is one kind of the file system which is spread across the world. So people they give their storage. Say like I have 5 GB of free storage, and you have 10 GB, and other person is some XYZ GB of the free data. So what we can do, we can pool all of the storage, and we can propose that, okay, you use my storage and you give me some compensation for that. And that's how all of the storage will be connected through a network. That's the IPFS. But there is a disadvantage of the IPFS. The disadvantage, like you write any of the data in the IPFS, everyone can see it. So you cannot write your personal messages or personal You cannot store any media or what you don't want to share to people. So that's why the IPFS has some use cases, but it's not replacing the storage. So basically, you write the data and everyone can see it, and each piece of the data is controlled through the CID. So CID is like basically the unique identifier of the any of the media what you have. So you must be knowing the inode kind of the concept, where you have a inode and file descriptor, and uniquely you identify the file in the system. Similar way you compare that, we have the IPFS where the CID is the string. Say like this kind of the UID or the UID 32 bit or 32 characters. So that's the size of that, and you give that to anyone can access that through the IPFS. IoT is a kind of the use cases where basically okay there understand one more concept here. I told like we have the storage here, then multiple storage and all, but this storage must not be stored with anyone. So like if I want to talk to a blockchain, it does not mean that I need to store this database with me. I can have one client, and the client is going and talking to this database, and finally this database is getting synced with the other database. So the small client I can have, and most of the cases this is the scenario. I need not to have the database with me, but still I can talk to the blockchain. So IoT understand that some remote devices there are limited connectivity there, and that wanted to talk to blockchain. It can just fire a RPC command, and it will go and talk to some of the provider of the node provider who is providing the node service. So basically, someone can provide that. Okay, you are the smaller devices. Let me host a service. Basically, I will host that database, and I will expose some of the APIs or the endpoints. You just use my APIs or endpoints and talk to this database. Rest you leave it to me. I will proceed it further and let all of the other node to sync it. So those kind of the things are also there. Data storage, this is if you know the company name is StoreJ, so they are leading in the data storage. So basically they have their cloud system based on the blockchain. So StoreJ is one very good example, and I think they are growing good. So their example is good, and the way I explained earlier, like okay, anyone can give their storage and can get some kind of the royalty or something. So so that's a data storage, and big data, cyber security, record management. These are some of the cases where we say that some data is written, and I don't want to change that. Maybe like I don't have the capability to change that. So that's all. That's some of the use cases in that. So cyber security, same way, like I don't want to change it, and something has been written or done, so it's done.
So, Param, there are some questions. Probably we'll take them before we move on to the next section. So let
Yes, sir, this
me,
is the right time.
yeah, I mean, I'm just logically pausing you. There's a question here. By the way, guys, this is a webinar. Some of you are new to this system. When you type something, it reaches me. You will not be able to see each of this message, but all the messages are reaching me because, some of them are, I think there's a message from Simran. She's asking, are my messages visible? All the messages are visible with me. Don't worry, Simran. So let me ask some of the questions that have been put across. There's a question from Suraj Rane. Suraj is asking, if someone put incorrect data in someone put incorrect data in data block so that they can remove the data block from the chain and add a new block at the same place. She's asking, can somebody tamper that?
No. So this is not possible. So you cannot tamper any of the data in the blockchain. Once you write, it's written. Whether you write the right data or the wrong data, it's done.
Okay, that's not feasible. In fact, that's where the whole integrity and other things which is mentioned. Simran is asking question. So basically, the main advantage is the security that it offers. Is it the main advantage of blockchain? Can we say that, Param?
No. So security of the data, we can say security of the data it offers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Not that
Still
kind
that.
of the security like the system security and all, but yeah, security of the data because of the hashes.
Mhm. Okay. Okay. Is it clear, Suraj, Simran? Does that answer your question? Are you there? Okay. Suraj is replying. Simran is replying. And there is one more question from Suresh. Suresh Dhoni is asking, uh, cost needed for proof of stake. I think initially you mentioned about proof of stake, right?
Mhm.
So what is the cost that is required? How much do they charge? Right?
Okay, so let me give the both of the examples. So whether it's a proof of work or the proof of stake. So I'm
Yeah.
starting with the
Yeah.
proof of work. So proof of work is the Ethereum, and the proof of work is the cost. The transaction charge is always some percentage, but that also depends on the what kind of logic you have written the blockchain. So I have seen some of the blockchain like the number of transactions are increasing, but gas fee is still low. But some of the blockchains, like say you take the Ethereum, if number of transactions are increasing, so the cost will also increase. So basically, that says you that you don't operate much on the blockchain because I don't have capability to handle your transaction. So some are like the linear, so number of transactions are more, so the cost will also increase. So if you consider the 4,000, not 4,000, maybe like $3,000 of the Ethereum price, so the gas fee is somewhere near to 300 or 400. So that's the range. Sometimes it becomes 250 also dollars. So that's the charges for your transaction. And in the proof of stake, I'll just take the example of the Tejos. So Tejos coin price is somewhere near to $2, and so $2 is there. So if you need to transfer anything, so 0.1% is basically 10%. So okay, yeah, 10%. 10% of your coin value will be used as a gas fee. So it does not mean like you are transferring the 500 XTG. Say like okay, Tejos uses the XTG. So zero point 0.1 XTG you have to spend. So if you are transferring the 500, it does not mean that 10% of that. So 10% of the one coin. So zero point 0.1 XTG will be used as a gas fee. But there is one catch here, like how much data you are going to write. Say like in one block, I'm just going to use 200 MB or maybe like a few KBs. So my gas charges will be lesser. If I am transferring say like 50, 60 or 100 MB of the data I am going to add into the system, so my gas fee will increase. So the much you are writing in the proof of stack, your gas fee is going to increase. But in the Ethereum also that will be same, but they have the concept like okay, if more activity is there, so probably you are going to get charged more. So that's how the proof of work. So did I answer your question?
Yeah. Let me check. I think this is asked by Suresh and Saloni. Did that answer your question, guys? Okay. Suresh is telling I got it, sir. Okay. Saloni will be right. There's one more question here. Param from Dharani Dharan. He's asking, how does blockchain differ from relational databases? You mentioned that as a database, right? So how it is
Yes.
different from database?
Okay. So I was keep telling in the middle that okay, three concept you understand. One, database, which is multiple database of the same type. Second, I need to run some business logic. Third, I need to have a mechanism where what data has to be written. I should have a control on that. So that mechanism is consensus. But in the normal database or the relational databases, you don't have all these three. You have one
Mhm.
single copy. Maybe like someone had the redundancy and they created one more copy of that. That's what can be. And you don't have the mechanism like what to write. So if you have the SQL, you just go and fire a command that goes and write. But in the case of the blockchain, this will not be true. If you have to write something, you need to submit your request, and that goes to the all of the nodes, and they validate everything, and there is consensus whether it's a proof of stack, a proof of work, whatsoever. Then based on that, if the outcome comes that this is the true block, they go and add. And the business logic, you don't have any logic in the databases. Whatever data comes, you go and write. There is no one who is going to control and say that okay, when you're writing A, it's supposed to write B in the database. There's nothing such thing. You write A, it goes A. But in the business logic, once you have, so probably a lot of decisions, if else loops and all are there. So based on that, it goes and writes something. So I think these are some 3-4 differences compared to our traditional database and the blockchain databases.
Okay, so probably I would say, suppose each of us have got lockers at our home where we are storing our cash and our jewelry, right? So you are keeping it only to open and close by yourself. That's something like your database, right? Or your somebody in your home is able to access. But on the
Correct.
contrary, if you wanted to set off people, like you want to exchange some gold and get some cash in back or something like that, it requires some consensus, and that has to be done with some kind of predefined protocols and things like that, which you explained, right? Maybe a layman's example I'm just adding. Does that clear,
Yes.
Dhanidharan? Question?
Yes, you told that the locker concept. When you go to bank, so probably locker is with the bank. One key I have,
Right,
another key bank people have. So it needs
right,
both the key to open. So
right, right,
that's how
right.
the concept is.
Yeah, yeah. So there's one more question. Who validate that block in a chain? Who does the validation?
Okay, so this is another concept in the blockchain. So there are validator. So basically, they do only the validation work in the blockchain. So what they do, they set up a kind of the, if I take the example of Tejo, so they set up a bakery. So the bakery job is uh, to validate each block, and they get the incentive of that. You validate all of the blocks, and there's software written for that purpose. So you just need to run that software, but you cannot go and start your own bakery for the validation. Basically, there is certain criteria like, okay, you need to have this many number of coins with you, otherwise it will happen like everyone goes and start their own validation node. So that is not the case. So you need to have certain number of the tokens to start the validation, and there are dedicated people. Basically, they have the set of the software, they go and run it, and they validate and they get the incentive. So whatever the gas fee I was talking, so each transaction is having some gas fee, so that gas fee goes to the validator. So that's how the network is like, okay, you are spending something and it is going to someone. So so that's how the blockchain economy, you can say, internally.
Great. Okay, so it is telling me. There are some questions specific to not on today's talk. There are something related to Emertxe, some other question. Let me answer that. Then there's a question from Suresh. I don't have any options regarding quiz and certificate on my screen, right? You don't need to worry. As I said, by attending this webinar, you yourself will automatically get a certificate, right? Because you already registered with ourselves. In the registration form, you've given your contact details. As long as you fully attend the session, you will get a certificate, no problem. Okay. Second, coming to quiz, as I already mentioned, it will be made live in our Instagram page. Towards the end of the session, I'll share our Instagram URL. I'm pretty sure all of us are part of the Instagram. You just need to go to our page and then take up that quiz. We put it in the Instagram stories, right? You'll be able to take it. So no need to worry. And some of us are already telling like I'm not able to basically take this webinar from desktop. I'm taking from mobile. That's absolutely fine. You can very well take it from mobile, and in fact, you will be able to take this question also from your what do you call the quiz also from mobile. No problem. Shalini is telling it's a heavy rainfall and things like that. No problem. Okay. And there's one more related question from Amit. He's asking, when did you start an IoT internship? Even though it's slightly different one, let me quickly answer, because the question, every question should be answered with its merit. So as some of you already know, we offer free internship program for engineering graduates who are studying in the college. We've been doing it for the past 10 year or so. And recently we closed applications for the IoT internship, right? It got closed on 28th or 29th. As I told, last week could not process. In the coming week, we'll be rolling out the written test. On whomever clears the written test, probably the week after next, we'll be starting the IoT internship. But as of now, the applications are already closed, right? If in case some of you are interested or some of you want to refer your friends, it's a free internship, 4-week live internship. The same time, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. we run. Some of our students already know. Just wait for the next set of dates. What are the previous applications closed? It's get under process. In the coming week, the written test will be conducted. Then the subsequent week, we'll kickstart the program. Okay. So that's about the IoT internship. Okay. All right. So quick validation. How is it? How are you guys finding the webinar? Um, are you able to connect what Param has explained so far, the basic concept, the use cases before he moves to the interoperability, right? Creating
Yes.
the common specification. We need to make it talk to each other. If you see, he mentioned one of the key challenges, the interoperability. That's where the next section I'm seeing coming up, right? Why create common specification for blockchain? Shalini is telling good and informative. Can I get some quick responses? Are you able to connect what has been explained so far? Quick, some more responses, and then I'll go off and then let Param handle. Any other quick comments so far? It's interesting, says Imran. Very good information, says Divya Rani Dasari. Uh, all right. So I'll pause now. Let Param continue. Informative and interesting says Devananda. Great, guys. So please proceed. I will, as I said, I'll pause in the next similar logical break, and then we will take it up. Over to you, Param. I'll go off.
Okay, thank you, Jay. So now we are starting the section where we are going to say that we are enabling the blockchain to talk each other. So I told that we have a network, say of the block Bitcoin, I have a network of the Ethereum, then Polkadot, Tezos, Solana, BSC, so many blockchains we have, but all of them are talking in a silos. It's like if 100 people are using the Ethereum, only 100 people can talk each other. Say 1,000 other people are using the Solana, so they know Solana and they're talking each other. But this 100 and 1,000 people's, how to make and how to connect them? So basically, that's a very challenging task. And me being in this NIA blockchain co-chair committee, so we are writing this spec where we are conceptualizing some of the things, and where we are proposing that okay, this is the way it is going to talk each other, and probably we will be creating some of the spec for that. If you don't get some of the concept here, so it's fine to not to know, but yeah, but keep exploring that how the things are happening. So probably you can write me also to understand something. And if you heard like web3, so this is the going to start for the web3. So internet is the web 2, where we have the network concept, IP concept, MAC concept, and all of the machines are talking each other, all the devices are talking each other. Now when we enable people to talk each other freely in the blockchain concept and visualize that okay, all of the blockchains are connected each other, now we have covered entire world. Now the web3 started because the all of the concept of the internet got changed suddenly. We have the TCP concept and the MAC and all. That's how our web 2 is. And now we got a database kind of the concept, and we are talking all of the blockchains through some of the mechanism, and there are some business cases. So from the web 2 to web 3, this is how it is going to change. And to become the web 3 more accessible to everyone, all of these blockchain must talk to each other. So there are a number of the use cases beyond the internet which is going to come in the web 3, and that's why it is important that all of the blockchains must talk each other. So what all we need to address it? So when we work and we think that okay, this blockchain is not talking, so basically some of the reason like the scalability issue, you cannot scale the blockchain. So probably what kind of the solution you provide, and some of the things what I am going to talk, this is the thought process. It's nowhere implemented till now. It's our thought process that okay, this is how it is going to work. So something can be right, something can be wrong also. So just bear with me. And the transaction cost, so I explained that Ethereum is costing you some $200 to $300. Why it should cost most that much? And if when the Tezos is costing you zero point 0.1 XTG, that's basically roughly, if you see some $2.1, so $0.1 is 5 to 10 rupees. So why it should why it should cost that much? It should be even cheaper. Maybe like there should not be any transaction cost in my view. But again, there's some problem comes, like if there is no transaction cost, then what are you going to give to the validator? You cannot give anything to them. But then who will be interested in validating? Probably all of the blockchain concept will fail there only, because it's an ecosystem. So somewhere the money is deducted and it is given to someone. So you cannot make the transaction cost zero. Interoperability, because all the blockchains has to talk. If say like I'm sending some of the cryptocurrency from the Solana to the Ethereum, how I can make it happen so that I can easily send it. So if you see, as of now, we have what basically the exchanges. So all these crypto exchanges. So and we have the concept of the stable coin. So stable coin, people say, because they prefer to take the payment in the stable coin and they convert that to some other tokens. So basically then they have the underlying protocols to convert all the tokens. If we don't have if we don't want to go through the exchanges, probably interoperability between the Ethereum and Solana is there. So I send anything in the Solana, and the person is having the Ethereum wallet and he is connected in the Ethereum network. Probably it has to go and convert automatically, and it has to reach to the person wallet. So that's why the interoperability is important, because it is going to remove all of the exchanges, and seamlessly we can just do the operations. So like one of the worldwide payment was using the Ethereum and they had some 50 clients. Another client is another person is using the Solana network and they have some 1,000 clients. Now these two companies can do the business together now if we have the interoperability. Otherwise, they need to have the two business unit and probably all of the manual operation will happen. So to avoid that, we need to have a mechanism to talk each other. So yeah, right transfer. So right transfer can be for the tokens, can be for the yeah, mostly it's a token only. If I think Jay started talking about the NFT, so that's also kind of the token, and different variety or different specification of the tokens. So Ethereum talks like ERC 2072 and also many different kind of the tokens they have, and those tokens defines you the use case. So when you have the tokens, probably you own it. When you own it, so you need to have the mechanism to have the right on that. So single change kind of the concept is not so good. And I was keep telling like I have a data, keep adding something, it becomes the 1,000 GB. And what I mean, like, okay, previous data, that's not so much useful. So like 90% of the data in the chain becomes the obsolete. You don't want to use that, but still you need to carry it in the node, because without that you cannot operate the node. So it becomes bulky. So what is the solution can be? You have the multiple small chain. But now once you have the multiple small chains, how are you going to manage that? So it's become like the tree kind of the structure. So that is not a also a good solution. And so these are some of the like the different countries and companies would like to keep the secret information private. So okay, so basically it's like if I have a company and I'm owning some of the blockchain. So if you know the recent announcement by the Vajirex, those guys are going to start their own blockchain. That's a Seedrum, some name is there. So once these people they have their own blockchain, so probably they will have their own protected data or protected code. So the scalability issue will become, and that will become the private thing. So some of those things will be hindering. So I was telling that we have a single chain, so the solution is the multiple chain. So multiple chain, again the concept like if I do one thing like maybe like 1,000 transactions I keep in one chain, and again 1,000 transactions I create another chain, the next 1,000 transactions I create another chain. Now all this thousand transaction chain I link somehow, maybe like data or the hash or the any other mechanism. If I link that, so probably in that way I'm scaling the chain. So that can be a solution that I am providing you the mechanism where you can store the unlimited number of the data, and then people can implement their own private chain. Okay, so this is till this transaction was this for the value, and I just take everything from there and let me start my own. So I fork the chain and I can start my own chain. So that's a different kind of visibility we can have. So one where the people are seeing, and one is the private where I and my associated people are only working, but both are also connected if I just fork it. So that is one of the concept what we were proposing. And this is something what you can see, like, okay, I start the record and it's like a private and public key kind of concept, and I have the signature. When we have the data, probably I can just start and start signing my data with that, with my key. So with my private key I sign it, and maybe public key I just attach with the data, and I create a block. So the previous block and the next block, all those will be linked in that way. So basically I have my signature. So the signatures are the very simple, you can just create from your side only. So public and private key you can have. So that can be based on any algorithm. So that doesn't matter. So basically you are associating your own key, your own signature in the with the block itself, and you sign it. So that's how also you can create. So it also provides a way to have the chain integrity. So we had the SHA algorithm where we were just SHA or the block we are putting with the block. You can also sign with your keys. So, and whatever I'm just telling, it's like our view, what we are saying that, okay, this is the way it has to look by analyzing the current blockchains in the system. So these kind of solutions probably you'll not get in any of the solution, but this is some of the things what probably in I think 3 to 4 years later you can find out, like some spec is there which is talking about that. So consensus I talk it. So is there any like consensus on the zero level? Is that a viable solution? So that can also come. So that is also possible. So something like we like. It is too expensive for the low value. Say I told like $1 if I have to send, and $1,000 I'm just spending. So I need a consensus mechanism which is allowing me to cost little lesser. So that's where the solution will be. Like my chain or the solution what I'm proposing, the consensus charges are the mechanism which is going to cost me lesser that it should have. Other points are okay, so we can skip that. So if you know the Hyperledger, so Hyperledger is another blockchain. So that has been proposed by the IBM, and that has the only use cases within the system. So like if I have the 10 people and I just need to write the data in the different blockchains, so do I need to have the consensus? I can avoid. Sorry. So if I can create any chain where I don't have the consensus mechanism, basically a lot of things I am going to avoid, because to make the consensus to come, I have a time difference between the block addition. So I given the example of the Tejos where in the 30 seconds we are, each 30 seconds we are adding the block. So like you have started some transition, it is going to happen only after 30 seconds. It's not fixed because the block addition time is fixed, but it can be from 0 to 30 seconds. So that much time it is getting waste. So you need to have a solution where you are avoiding the consensus. So if you avoid the consensus, probably you are just going to write the data immediately. So that is going to increase your speed. So if the speed is increased, probably you can use in the multiple other use cases, such like the banks and all, where you are having the thousands of transactions happening in a second. So those things can be done if you just avoid the consensus, or maybe like a common consensus across the blockchains, and at that moment we need to have a mechanism to transfer from the current consensus to a newer consensus. Probably I think those kind of things we don't have across the industry. We don't have any such solution where someone can change the consensus, because it's a very hardcore and hardly embedded into the blockchain itself. And the common pain point what we have, like anyone can copy the data from one chain and they can just store it. And some of the solution comes like, okay, off chain. Say I told about the size of the chain itself. So 1000 MB of the block, 1000 GB of the sizes of the one blockchain, means one database. Can you create a off chain? Say like I just put the hash of the data in the blockchain and actual data is somewhere else. I'm not keeping the actual data in the blockchain. And if you ask me, putting the actual data in the blockchain is inhuman in my view, because you are going to impact the performance of the blockchain, and that sooner or later going to fork itself. So fork is one of the biggest problem in the blockchain, because you lose all of the tokens. So basically that doesn't become the native, so it becomes two. So and one of the solution what we are thinking, that we have entity one, then we have the different basically the chain, you can say like the para chain kind of the concept. And all of the different colors are the different chain, and data is associated, similar kind of the chain is associated. This is also a kind of solution to solve the problem of the efficiency. So all the relevant data only goes to the relevant chain. So in that way we are associating the similar kind of the operation, or similar kind of the maybe like you can say any logic based on the similar things. So it can be like a one smart contract data is going to write in the one single chain, and but all of them are the associated thing. So this can be another proposal where we can bring the interoperability. So yeah, this is another problem what we say, like a private keys management. So if you see the wallet uh, and you hear like always that, okay, my wallet is compromised. So that's a wallet I'm telling you about, the cryptocurrency wallets. That's compromised and someone used their private key and they have stolen all of this. So the security of the private key is not always optimal for the user. So we need to have some other solution where it should not be based on the private key. So all of the wallet, if you see, right, say it's a seed keyword and some private key, so that's based on that it is secured. So we need to have some other kind of the mechanism. So that's how it is going to solve. Otherwise, if you see Ethereum blockchain, the Polkadot, everything is having the same kind of the wallet. You just go and create one MetaMask or the Temple wallet, or whatsoever, Kukai or something, any kind of the wallet you create. It has a very common concept, seed phrase and the private key. If you lose any of the things, you lost everything. So you lose all the transaction details, you lose all of the tokens and all. So something like other problems once you see, like preventing the harm and all. So something like proof of identity of the owner and mechanism to issue the one new key automatically. How the those kind of a solution you can provide. I told like, okay, we have the wallet and the wallet is secured by the keys. What blockchain can provide this solution so that we can issue a new key? And so it can be like some kind of policy we can ensure, or some mechanism in the blockchain itself. So that can solve the scalability problem. So people will be more adapt to the chain, because they now know that, okay, they are not going to lose things. So that's a kind of the solution what we can provide. And this is very thing what I told some time back, like Wazir is going to start that Sridram blockchain. So when a private company starts any blockchain, so the protocols will not be open. And if you ask me, that open source software works best, whether it's or Linux or any of the open source software. That's a standard. Someone is writing the spec, and spec is written only after the lot of thorough investigation into the matter, and it has gone through the multiple reviews. So that's how we have the spec. And when we have the spec ready, so probably it covers all of the use cases. When it covers the all of the use cases, so chances of the problems will be lesser. And community is working for that. So when community is working, they'll work, they'll solve the issues, they'll make it more robust. So that's why we don't need the private. And if you ask me that, okay, Polkadot, that's one of the private blockchain. Ripple is the private blockchain, and Ethereum is like, it became the community wise. So any of the private protocol is not a good solution. So it has to go beyond the vendors. So we need not to have any kind of a solution. And something like one interesting thing what I noticed in the Polkadot, that they are going and associating with the Linux. So GPL3 kind of the licensing they are going now. And a lot of people are talking to Linux Foundation for the blockchain related work, because they wanted to make it open as possible, so that we can have the adoption. So private players has to go away from the system, and someone who can really own it, someone open source entity. So this would come for the betterment of the blockchain adoption. Open sourcing. So this is what I was telling. So it has to be open source, otherwise it cannot scale so much, and people cannot just create a software which can cater to millions or maybe like billions of people. So we must open source it. Right transfer. This is the special case. So I own it, some token, probably the ownership of that I need to transfer, and the mechanism has to be seamless across the blockchain. If you see all of the blockchains like Solana, Tejas, or Ethereum, they have a different mechanism. So that has to change, and the good or the better mechanism has to come. And in the previous slide, I just wanted to talk about like all of the blockchains, they have the tools to explore it, and that is kind of the proprietary. I see it, and only few are developing that. So we need to have some kind of the standard there also, so that the tools to explore the blockchain, tools to explore the transaction, that should be very robust and good enough for the cross blockchain operations. Yeah, people should work for the protocol extension. So if you see this Polkadot, they are very good, and they are creating kind of the plugins. So plugin like from Polkadot to Ethereum, one plugin, from Polkadot to Solana, another plugin. So all those kind of the things they keep creating. So we need to have the standard there also, and some kind of the standard or extension there. So each blockchain has to follow, so that they can talk. So their protocol has to go beyond that. And the way like a EVM is created, EVM has to have some kind of the protocol extension. If you understand EVM more in details, so they have a well-defined structure for themselves only. And if you have the structure, well-defined structure for yourself only, so obviously you're not going to talk outside. You need to have some extension or something, some extra piece which can go and talk to other blockchain. It can be for anything like the transfer, compliance, ownership, authenticity. So it can be for all of the things. Basically, it has to cater the requirement of the blockchain and cater the use cases of the blockchain wherever it is being used. So it should cover all of the things. Yeah, these are some of the things like, okay, we don't need a single chain, traditional concept. So I was keep talking it. Yeah, that's all I have for this talk. So probably you have the questions. So we'll take the questions now. Jay?
Yeah, Param. Okay. So thanks, Param. Thanks for sharing your perspectives. I'm seeing some questions have come up, but before that, let me add, some points. My understanding of what I, could interpret from today's presentation, something like a summarization or something like that. I don't know, many of you have observed what Param has mentioned. He spoke about something called Web 3 or Web 3.0, right? You may be wondering about what is Web 1 and Web 2.0, because Param, as you can see, right, many of them are what do you call born in the year 2000, right? Like by the time and then they probably started accessing the internet in the year 2014 or 15, when the social networking was already in place. Am I right, people in the call? Do you agree with me? By the time you started learning about internet, you're already aware of social networking. Am I right? It could be, I don't know where you guys might have started. It could be largely started with Facebook, the social networking. Then probably it would have evolved into Instagram. Some of you might not even heard about Orkut. Anybody heard about Orkut? Me and Param knows it, right? Of course, Param is junior than me, but of course senior to you guys, right? Right. So that is when you guys enter internet, right? That's what, that's when we used to call, in my HP days and early Huawei days as a Web 2.0, right? So before that, if you look at largely a Web 1.0, it primarily more as a user when you're logging into internet, right? You used to consume the data. You go read the news, right? Or you go read an email, right? Email itself was a big deal then, right? Forget about video, and you go and probably what do you call go and do some kind of informatory literature study, right? To do, that is one website where hosts were. And even if you look at a website, there are very minimal interactivity, right? You just go and submit a inquiry form, or you just go and say contact us and then put your, that was Web 1.0, right? Where building a website was about putting a 5 to 6 pages in a website, right? That's what we called as Web 1.0, which you guys will not be able to connect, right? Then came Web 2.0, which was more about social, where it's not only that you are consuming the data, but you're also contributing back to it. For example, this generation will be able to relate because you guys live in the world of Reels, right? Reels is a great example where you are not only consuming the data from the internet, like a news, right? Today, say, hey, what is the latest in blockchain? You're not talking about that, right? Probably you are listening to a 1 minute video or a 2 minute reel created by your friend. And of course, there are a lot of tools that is provided by this ecosystem where you're not consuming, you're contributing back. That's where all this entire social media comes into picture, right? But still, the data, whatever you're producing, whatever you're uploading back to the internet, doesn't have any kind of a privacy, doesn't have any kind of a structure, right? Probably I will upload some reels based on blockchain. Param will upload something about Linux, right? Or you guys are much more cool, right? You went for a restaurant and you want to make a reel, right? I'm just telling an example of a reel so that you can connect to it, right? Param, these kids don't even use Facebook, by the way, right? We find older generation to them, right? So what Param is talking about Web 3.0, it's about, not only about you generate the data, but give them some structure and meaning to the data, right? And the data should be, when you're saying that, when you use it for some serious business, that's where the data integrity comes into picture, right? Then how do you basically build a commerce or a business logic around it? And not only that, very importantly, when many people are building different blockchains, right? How do we make them talk to each other, right? So I was just casually reading through when Param was presenting, right? Many of the ideas, whatever is mentioned, are in the concept check, which he also reiterated, right? These are all is going to be the future, right? If you look at Facebook, they already renamed themselves as a Meta, and things are moving towards Web 3.0, which is going to be, I would say, a blockchain-driven mechanism where you are going to not only contribute the data in form of reels, but you're going to create some serious database, and then ensure that you use it for various use cases that whatever Param has mentioned, right? So that's where
Jay,
the future, right, guys. So Param, what any
yeah, I
comments
just
on that?
want to, yeah, I just want to add one point. So all of we know that we have the browser like the Google Chrome or the Explorer. So Coinbase has just developed browser for the Web3, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a different. That's not the
Mm.
same way what we have the currently the browser. So I think in the future we will have all the changes in all the aspects.
Right, right. Because the way Web 2.0 came, the entire app economy came and changed the thing, right? We don't know what is in store for Web 3.0, and many of the points that what you mentioned in the presentation, right, sounds very futuristic, and then a lot of pros and cons about each and everything. Still, things are getting defined because it takes anywhere around as you rightly mentioned, anywhere around 3 to 5 years to stabilize, right? To get into some kind of a broad user base getting adapted to that. But it's where it's heading very clearly, because no longer, even if you look at Meta, they're already killing Facebook, and the focus is more coming towards Instagram, and then subsequently, you get into this blockchain-based Web3, which is going to be having such a wide variety of use cases, right? And as always, we reiterate in our webinars, which Param also mentioned. So this webinar, if you see, right, it is more of a his work, whatever he's been doing, and his interest area, and he's presented how it some basics, and then he's telling, right, this interoperability is the thing as you move forward, right? Then I don't know whether many of you had listened to that particular statement was Parma said, right? It is about you guys to go and explore further. And that is where that we always leave our webinars. It's not about some gyan giving, right? Where 2 hours we run slide after slide after slide, and then he's telling, right, even 2 hours Param felt it's quite high. Recently it looked like a college lecture, right? So it's about giving you the minimalistic information, then let you guys go and explore what it is all about, because the information is very much open, and even the solution that for the interoperability is going to be more inclined towards the open source based approach rather than some proprietary company owning something, right? So that's how it is. So overall, for me, it's been very informative. So there are a couple of questions here. Let us read out. So what are the basic, I think this is a very interesting question, Param, because majority of the folks here are entry-level engineers. So they mainly wanted to know how do they get started with this, right? For example, Suresh is asking some question from that. What are the basics to learn blockchain? Is something like a programming language? How do they get started? Any points around that?
Yes. So, okay, to start with, go through the YouTube videos, understand the concept, and the next step comes like you need to play with the blockchain. So basically, you write a smart contract, and to write the smart contract, you need to have this certain different kind of the languages knowledge. So if you need to write the Ethereum or Ethereum layer 2 solutions, you need to understand the solidity. And if you want to write a contract in the Tejas, so probably Python is sufficient, and maybe like Michelson is one of the machine level language. So that you need to learn, and you go and deploy after that. So you write your business logic, that's the smart contract, and deploy it. Now, once you deploy that, so probably play around that. You call different entry points in that, and maybe like the API expose from the smart contract, and see how it is behaving. And later on you'll learn that, okay, my transaction is getting added, so understand how the fee is there and how do you explore the blockchain. So basically your transaction went, but where it went and how it is. And then they have the concept of the test net and the main net. Start playing with the test net first, then go and play with the main net. So that's how you should be proceeding.
Okay, so watch YouTube videos, start Solidity or Python, start getting, and indirectly that's what he says, like get hands-on, experiment yourself, right? Thanks, Param. There's one more question from Pallavi. Pallavi is asking, sir, do blockchain have any validity for transfer of data and money?
uh, Validity in the sense of the whether the block is getting accepted or not. So that's where it has the validity. Say I wanted to send some money from to person B, and that goes in the mempool. Mempool is a concept like where they combine all of the transactions, then they pick, validate that, and add that. So to add to the network, the blockchain, there is validity period. So that's just some 30-second or maybe that. And beyond that, if that is not getting accepted by the network, so that will get lost. So probably the transaction will be failed. So you need to reinitiate that.
Okay.
So did I
So,
answer?
Pallavi, does that answer your question about validity? Okay, she says, okay, sir. Okay. Any other questions, folks? I know we're little ahead of time. Typically, we take around, yeah. Then there's a question from Suresh. He's saying, future of blockchain in India.
Yeah, there is future. So use cases of the non-crypto. It's a very fantastic use cases because we are the hub of the technology for the world. So we will be keep developing the products for the security products, for the products, for the any of the use cases of the blockchain. But if you see the government playing the roles in the cryptocurrencies, so probably government has told clearly that okay, there is some 30% of the taxes on all of the transaction happening. So that's where the government is saying, okay, cryptocurrency is the one use case, but there are multiple other use cases. Go and explore that. So India is going to be obviously the hub of that, and as I said that Wajirex is going to have their own blockchain. So Wajirex is the Indian company. So now you'll understand that India is going to start their own blockchain. And if you see these guys, Polygon people are from India. Basically, they are from the Bangalore. So Polygon is one of the very famous and very successful blockchain. So obviously, there is a huge future in the India, and we are starting the blockchain. It's not like we are just developing the software around that. We are having our own blockchain, which is started from the India. So future is bright. Only the case of the cryptocurrencies where the government is involved. So probably that comes under the government regulation.
Okay, because it has to be regulated, right, as per the local government policies and other
Yes.
things. There's a question from Rajeshwari. I think the question is similar what you just mentioned. Where can we find blockchain in India? Any specific example that you can quote, Param?
Uh, Blockchain is spread across the world. So it's not like one place it is stored thing. And if you just want to understand about the how the blockchain working and where is play around that, so that's the information is available in the net. But if you want to say like okay from where it has started, so it's a spread across the world. So there's no answer like where I can go and find.
India specific or something like that, right? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Great. Any other questions, guys? Any other questions? Looks like not. Okay. All right. So thank you, Param. Just hang on. Let me also talk a bit about quiz, then we'll go towards closure. In the meantime, some questions might come up. Can you take back the control, Param?
Is it
Okay.
given?
Yeah, yeah. Let me share my just a minute. I'll share the quiz details. All right. So let me share some details about the quiz. As you can see there's a coupon code that is mentioned. Let me share, then I'll show you how to take the quiz. There's a, in the quiz, the first question will be a coupon code. That's what is flashing in your screen. Just note it down. In case if you're not able to note down, let me also upload in the if you guys see in the right side of your in your panel, there's something called as a handouts. There's a coupon that's like Masterclass. There's a numbering, and then I put a coupon dot JPEG. You can download that in case if you're not able to note down one. So the quiz has just gone live. Let me just show you guys how to take it up. So this is the Instagram page of Emertxe. You can see here, instagram.com /Emertxe. That's our page. You can just go there, click on the stories. You can see that it's already up. The questions are there, and there's a welcome message, right? And here basically you need to put your coupon code, whatever I've just given you, and then subsequently, you can 4, 5, 6, 7. Probably you may wait for another couple of minutes. There are, I think, totally 10 questions. Maybe it will take another minute or two to all the questions to come up, and then you can attempt that questions, right? And then subsequently, our team will evaluate that in the coming week and announce the winners. Okay. That's about the quiz. And okay, so in case if you guys have any questions, suggestions, feedback, let me also share our contact details. So this is a common ID which we use for our webinars, edtech_events_manager@emertxe.com. You can drop a message if you have any comments and any other feedback, suggestion. There's also phone number in case you want to call us or messages for any other queries, right? We'll be glad to answer you guys. Okay. So with that, we have come to, by the way, this is our Instagram channel, which I just showed you. We are also active in LinkedIn. You can follow us to get more updates. So typically we'll be hosting the masterclass webinar during the first Saturday of every month, as I said in the beginning. But this month, as last Saturday I was traveling, could not do that. You need to push it to this Saturday. So, you can expect something in the month of July, first Saturday. We'll be announcing it in the channel. So, of course, if you're a student and interns, we all have internal Google group and WhatsApp group where we send out those messages. Okay. So that's pretty much what we have for today. So thank you very much for joining in. And on behalf of Team Emertxe, I would like to thank Param, our speaker, who spent his valuable time, because it's not easy, right? Saturday night, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. We're all having other responsibilities. So it makes a lot of effort to, and also understand, explain it from your perspective, right? It's very easy to go gaga about blockchain. That's not the idea. It's about giving you guys the necessary information so that you can go and explore, right? So from that perspective, I think it was a very informative and very crisp presentation, very simple, but still conveyed a lot of important message. So thank you very much, Param. Hope you're there. Audio is
Thank you, Jay. Thank you giving this opportunity.
okay. So looking forward, Param. And this, as I said, this session is already getting recorded. Early next week, our team will send out, even though you're not, some of them are attended, but they're not registered, but they're not attended today. We will send to the recorded video to all of them, and certificates and goodies will reach you in the coming week. And we'll also announce who are all the winners in the Instagram page, the quiz winners, right? Can you get some quick feedback before we close for today? Okay, so Pallavi is telling, thank you for presenting valuable information about blockchain, says Pallavi. Thank you, sir, says Suresh. Thank you, sir, says Simran. Suresh also is thanking. Thank you for the wonderful session, says Devananda. Any other quick comments, feedback? Thank you for intuitive presentation about blockchain, says Bidu. Thanks a lot, says Druvil. Then we have Kishore thanking. Learn to new things, always interesting, says Sanjeev. Thank you for wonderful session, says Narayana. Very helpful and informative, says Peram Pranita. Then thanks for webinar. It's more informative, says Raghunath. Great exposure to blockchain, says Suraj. Thank you, sir. Learned something new today, says Rachana. That's a very spirit in which we host these webinars. Thank you for valuable information, sir. By this webinar, I learned something new, says Sai Sunil. Thank you for your valuable information about blockchain, says Mukund Kumar. Okay. So thank you very much, guys. I'm sure this not only motivates us, even for our speaker who spend his time, right? I think your feedback would be very encouraging for him, because that's what we wanted to impart, right? Sharing the information and let you guys explore, and there's no limit. And by the way, Web3 is just getting started. It's going to go a long way, and from Web 1 to 2, it has changed the world upside down. I don't know what changes Web3 is going to bring in, right? So as things explore, keep yourself curious, and keep a learning mindset. Keep learning new things, and I'm sure you'll be able to learn and also achieve something using this phenomenon. Okay. So thank you very much, all of you, for joining this webinar. Thank you very much, Param, and thanks for my team. They're all silently sitting and listening. They've been doing a lot of things in the back end. You may not guys aware, right? Coordinating this much scaled event is not an easy thing. So my team has been instrumental. So I'm just coming and talking. A lot of back-end work is done by our team in Emertxe. So thank you, team Emertxe. Thank you, Param. So thank you for all the attendees today, our students, interns, newbies, right? We'll keep it going. So see you in the next Masterclass webinar in July. Okay, until then, take care and see you in the next Masterclass webinar. Okay. Bye.
Thank you, Jay.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Catch up
Bye-bye.
later. Yeah. Yeah. Bye.